Their species numbering in the millions, insects make up about 40% of living beings on Earth and play important roles in many ecosystems, by turns either injurious or beneficial. They also play an integral role in human life as pollinators, medicine, dyes, or food. For thousands of years, traditional cultures have eaten insects, gathering the eggs, larvae, pupae, and adults of suitable species, particularly in Asia, Africa, Central, and South America. 2,000 species of edible insects form part of the diet of 113 countries. In addition, many of the developed countries have recently been exploring possibilities of incorporating insects into their diets. As cold-blooded animals, insects can convert feed more efficiently than cattle. They require less water, and many have the same amount of protein as beef or pork, or more in some cases. In fact, grasshoppers have 3 times more protein than cows and contain significant quantities of amino acids, minerals, and fats. Being genetically distinct from humans, they are unlikely to be the source of infectious diseases, and they do not produce environmental contamination. In a world in which the population is expected to climb to over 9 billion by 2050, they offer the hope of feeding large populations for low cost and little environmental harm. In terms of the effect of entomophagia, the eating of insects, on Mexican ecosystems, the harvesting of insects for food has often served as a deterrent to the harm they normally inflict on trees and other vegetation. Unfortunately, habitat loss and increasing demand for insects are also leading to their disappearance, as in the Mixteca region, where the mariposa del madroño is in danger of extinction. In Mexico, the consumption of insects as food goes back thousands of years, as insects were a major part of the diet of ancient Mexico. In the Florentine Codex, Bernardino de Sahagún cataloged 96 species of edible insects, and contemporary research have identified at least 535 species of edible insects in Mexico today. Aztec emperors, including Montezuma, consumed a variety of insects, including escamoles, a type of ant egg, as well as oaxaqueño, a water bug, and ahuehuetle, the eggs of the oaxaqueño, which they ate in the summer to give them strength. These insects were also valued as tribute items for the emperor, and the Aztecs performed songs and dances devoted to the escamoles. Tellingly, because of the long history of entomophagy, most edible insects in Mexico have names derived from Nahuatl. In a spiritual sense, the customs of collecting and consuming insects represent a harmony with nature and the eternal cycle of life. The passing of the seasons, with its implication of birth, growth, and death, are incorporated in the very bodies of the insects as they go from egg to pupa to adult. Until recently, indigenous people have harvested insects for their own use and have only sold what they do not consume themselves. To this day, insects are sold in markets and eaten by local people throughout Mexico as a significant source of nutrition and as a time-honored part of their cultures. Currently, insects are in much greater demand in markets and urban centers than they have been previously. Entomophagia has entered the high cuisine, both in Mexico and abroad, a phenomenon that poses the danger of overconsumption of this resource. In Oaxaca, the omnipresent fried chapulines, sold in markets and on the street, are the most well-known example of insect food in Mexico. Other insect-derived delicacies in Mexico include insects portrayed in this carpeta: escamoles, the larvae and pupae of ants; chicatana, leaf-cutter ants; humiles, stink bugs; oaxaqueño, water bugs; ahuehuetle, water bug eggs; chinicuiles, red maguey worms; cocopache, giant mesquite bug; mariposa de muerte, the giant silk moth; mariposa de madroño, sats, cicada larvae; periquito de aguacate, tree hopper; butterflies, scorpions, dragonflies, tarantulas, and bee larvae. The prints in this carpeta reflect the diversity of insect alimentation in Mexico, with works by 20 artists from various parts of the country, 7 from Oaxaca, 6 from Mexico City, and the rest from Guanajuato, Jalisco, Morelos, Nuevo León, Chihuahua, and Tamaulipas. The images reflect both the natural world and interactions between humans and insects in a variety of styles and techniques. Some of the prints have a surreal aspect in line with the surrealist preoccupation with subjects that some people find disturbing or grotesque. Three artists portray the mescal worms that grow inside of the maguey cactus. In true surrealist manner, Sigrid Wiese has invented a hybrid figure of a limbless woman with the body of a worm, with smaller worms emerging from her head. The worm has human arms and feet and seems to be crawling away from a large maguey plant. Lucia Torres' etching in aquatint, El Sindicato, is similarly surreal, with the addition of humor, as she portrays a meeting of union members, pictured as worms, listening to a speech by their leader. Fernando Beta's charming woodblock print, Gusanito Rojo de Maguey, evokes a sense of nostalgia, as a little boy gazes thoughtfully at a basket of worms surrounded by the leaves of the cactus. In Sats, Georgina Montes portrays the edible larva of a cicada eaten for thousands of years by Mayan people in southern Mexico, here identified by numerous small red circles on the delicate leaves and stems where they are found. Jorge Rubio's mezzotint and offset lithography portrays circles of escamoles in colorful, stylized design. In his cyanotype and laser-cut print, Adoración de Xiuhtecutli, Samuel Chavez Masatl places the consumption of the axayacatl in historical context, as the Spanish conquistadores related that the Aztecs considered the axayacatl sacred to the fire god Xiuhtecutli. The artist's image depicts the god as though in a dark temple with the axayacatl swimming in an illusionistic space. El Origen de Todo by Cocotzin Prieto depicts three faces surrounded by abstract shapes and small circular representations of the ahuautli, the axayacatl legs, sometimes known as Mexican caviar. The Nahuatl word translates to something like seeds of joy, and like axayacatl and chocolate were thought to be food for gods. The title suggests the origin of life in the sustenance provided by the insects that live in the water and, by extension, water itself. Ivan Doroteo takes straightforward approach with his periquito de aguacate, referring to a beetle that lives on avocado trees, seen here clustered on branches that form abstract patterns. Emiliano Guerrero represents another beetle, the cocopache, in a complicated, grotesque, but hilarious caricature. The beetles are depicted as men dancing wildly, with cocopache bodies and human heads, most with spear-like crosses and other references to the Catholic Church. The cocopache beetle, also called chamues, appears in Jose Carrera's unsettling image of a young woman with a creature in her mouth, worms in a basin below her, a mandorla of onions surrounding her. Jessica Gadga illustrates a similar theme in her Delicatessen, another surreal image and a challenging experience for the viewer. The woman in the image has a scorpion coming out of her mouth and other scorpions impaled on an object in her hand. Tarantula by Diana Minerva treats its theme humorously. In this enigmatic image, four identical women sit around a table in a humble kitchen, as though from a fairy tale, eyes cast down, trance-like. An oversized tarantula lies on the table between them like a festive offering. Found in the state of Oaxaca, the chicatana, a flying ant, is one of the most valued of all insect foods in Mexico, either toasted or in salsa de chicatana. They are seasonal, eagerly awaited and gathered at the beginning of the rainy season. They are also known to bite. In Cesar Villegas' lithograph, Hormigas Gigantes, what seems at first like an innocent scene actually portrays a sinister group of chicatanas that approach a disembodied head, attacking and probing it. Silverio Herrera imagines a post-apocalyptic world in a comics format, in which humans emerge from a nuclear disaster to find that grasshoppers are their only food. Edible dragonflies are the theme of two untitled prints in the carpeta. An image by Mary Martinez resonates with works by Carrera and Gadga, all three of which explore the horrifying side of entomophagia. In Martinez's complex work, a young woman lies in a tangle of plants and dragonflies. Her segmented torso suggests that she is partly a dragonfly herself. A dragonfly covers her chest, another crawls on her hair, and a third is entering her mouth. Her closed eyes seem half human and half fly, and she appears to be dreaming. In contrast, Coral Revueltas delicate and abstract tracery could represent the shimmering flight of dragonflies. In a sensitive, dreamlike work, Oscar Sandoval portrays the mariposa de madroño, commonly eaten in the Mixteca region of Oaxaca in its larval phase. A plume of smoke with chrysalis forms embedded in it streams from the hands of an indigenous woman, while a large disembodied hand to her left holds an empty sack that recalls both the food it contained and the life cycle of the butterfly below. Violeta Juarez also depicts the life cycle of an edible butterfly, the mariposa de muerte. In a bucolic scene drawn in a simplified style, villagers gather and prepare the edible larvae, which frame the image, cluster around a tree, and repose in an assortment of rustic cooking vessels. The adult butterfly sits at the bottom of the print. Juarez has included 3 written instructions: express, boil with salt, and toast, along with the words cuetlas and pochohuil, 2 words for the larvae. The variety of subjects and styles in this portfolio honor the importance and multiplicity of the deep traditions of Mexican foodways, especially the distinct cultural heritage of insect cuisine. For many of these artists, the experiences and memories associated with these foods are personal and nostalgic, and they have explored the various subjects with creativity, insight, and understanding, producing a memorable collection of unusual and interesting images.